Hey everyone. Today, this is the Kickstart Your Book Sales podcast, and today we're going to be talking about what we thought Kickstarter was and what it actually is. So, just kind of a fun, I feel like this is a fun episode to just cut through, some false beliefs that we had that maybe you have as well, and just kind of, the mindset shifts that we had to take to start to use Kickstarter and to really, we both use Kickstarter regularly now. Russell for much longer than myself, but I don't know. I've spent the last 12 weeks doing Kickstarters, so
Yeah.
a month before that. So
Yeah, you've done a lot. You've definitely went from like Kickstarter novice to like grizzled veteran like very quickly in the last few months.
it's true.
But yeah, maybe I have one. I have one to get us started, which is I thought you could. I thought Kickstarter was a one and done platform that you would go, you would make your money, and then like no one would ever come back to this platform again and like do this. And like clearly, I have found, as my friend Tyler says, like Kickstarter is a renewable resource that you can keep coming back to again and again and again and again. And as long as your audience is ready, like you can keep launching.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is that Kickstarter. I think it works in two ways. I think it works really well as like a first payment, basically, which is really, I would say, like the main way that we teach it, or that you teach it, Russell, is that it's Kickstarter as a first payment, so that when you go to retailers or other platforms, you're in the black. And then I also think it works on like your backlist. So it's like it's also like almost like Kickstarter as a last payment in so many ways, because I feel like where else can you do a campaign on like a 10-year-old book? So I think it's just this kind of beautiful circle of life that is, I mean, it was surprising to me because it's not at all how I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, we launched these books. These books have been out like that you launched right now, and you made
Yeah.
$38,000, I think, as we're doing this, like
Yeah.
on these books that have been out for over a year.
Yeah, which is crazy. So yeah, these, I mean, kind of, I think what we're kind of proving out, at least on the nonfiction piece, which nonfiction is a little bit different from fiction in some ways, but with the nonfiction stuff, what this is going to be like a second iteration of these books, and so in some ways they're newish, and in lots of other ways they're old. Like they've been out for a year-ish or so. Some of them have, but I do think it's interesting that we're finding a use for Kickstarter, essentially midstream on the nonfiction side. And so the midstream for us with these books is like, okay, we put them out, they've gotten some feedback, like we know how to make them better. People are asking for workbooks, people are asking for programs. So like then we said, okay, great, like we'll put that out, and and the books are the foundation, but like there's this other stuff too that is what is kind of inching those totals up. It's not just the 6 books, obviously. So and that is something that you also have taught, Russell, which is basically like, when somebody when your audience is telling you that they want something, but it's going to be really expensive, time consuming to make, then you force them to pay you to prove that they actually want it. And so it's like kind of a testing ground in that sense. So I feel like that's where this particular campaign is that we're running right now. So,
and it was so interesting for this particular campaign because you basically said, well, I put out all of these books and then I learned 2 years of stuff since I wrote them and I want to make them relevant. And I want to basically double the size of the books.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just going to go and do it. I gotta like, I need to know that there's interest. And whoa, boy, was there interest. I mean,
right.
I was like, we were talking before. It's like, if it hits, Monica was like, yeah, I think it'll hit 30 or so. And I was like, yeah, if it hits 10, I'll be really happy. And then like,
I
know, and like we're going to hit 40
know
by the end. Yeah. We didn't have any idea. Cause these books, again, like they've been out and like, you've been able to not just revitalize them, but revitalize them and then also make it relevant to people to rebuy all of these things or buy the whole series.
Yeah.
Because, what I think probably people aren't looking at, they go to the pages, there's significantly less people. There's going to be like
Oh,
200 or so less people than this
between the two
campaign than the
campaigns.
last
Yeah.
one, and you're going to almost double your goal, if not more than double what we made on the last campaign.
Yeah, it would take, so I don't know that we're gonna do it because we're like Russell said, we're at, well it's going up faster right now because the campaign ends tomorrow. So like we're in the 48-hour window, so it just keeps changing. But the last time I looked was like 38.6 or 38.7 or something like that. And I looked this morning, we would have to hit over 43 to get it. So it's gonna take a bit to like double the last campaign. But I will say something that is interesting and also that I was actually kind of disappointed by is that we had 537 people on the Kickstarter book alone. And I thought, well, this is wide. This is about a wide topic. And so I assumed like we'll probably, because it's not as niche as the Kickstarter stuff, I assumed we would probably hit more. So but yeah, I think we're pushing toward 350 is like that's where the final and last stretch goal is at 350. So I'm like, well, I don't even know if we're gonna hit 350, but that's what we would hope to hit. But certainly not gonna hit 537.
Well, one nice thing about Kickstarter is that you could make a lot of money if you do it right from far less people than you ever thought possible. Like we didn't think 20 grand was going to happen last year from 500 people. And now 40 grand is very possible from 350 people.
Right.
So things that I thought Kickstarter was, I thought that once you launch something on Kickstarter, you have launched it on Kickstarter and there's not going back to Kickstarter.
Right.
I last year did a special edition book for our Void Calls Us Home, which raised more than half, no, almost half what happened when I launched because I originally launched it in this summer slate campaign, which we've talked about before, and it raised like $9,500. And the Void Calls Us Home was in that bundle. Then I pulled it out of that and made an audio drama and a special edition, and it raised like $4,600 or something like that by itself after being part of this $9,500 campaign. And I've seen people launch anniversary books. I've seen people launch omnibuses. After doing Kickstarters, I have always seen people do issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5, and then do a trade. But I never like really equated the two things. But yeah, I always thought like once you launch something, like it was launched, and it's like you can launch it mid, you can launch it to get new interest in it after years, you can launch it when you have a new format. Like there are just so many ways to launch something a second, third, fourth, fifth time, which I really thought, while you could do this on retailers, you could not do it on Kickstarter because people wouldn't come back again. And surely that is a mistaken notion.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be curious if like your God's verse. I think you're thinking about doing another round of God's verse, possibly.
Well, I don't want to like jinx it, but I have our friend and Kickstarter affiliate, Kickstarter member, working on AI assisted audio of all 12 books of the God's Verse Chronicles. And I'm doing that specifically because I want to, people have told me, you included, that they want to buy the retailer versions of this on Kickstarter. And I was like, I don't just want to go back with the retailer versions. Like, I think that's cheating. Like, I know it's not cheating, but like in my gut, like I feel like I can't just do that, especially if I just launch these books in their Kickstarter exclusive format. But I thought, it's not that expensive to do the AI assisted audiobooks. And I honestly have no idea how they're going to turn out. Like I know how they are for nonfiction. They're pretty good for nonfiction. I have no idea how they're going to be for fiction. we might finish this first one and say, nah, there's like, no, this is
Mm-hmm.
terrible. But like, I think that they're worth probably, my idea is I'm going to do audio commentary, audio book, audio commentary, and ebook for $5.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, like, even if you're not sure about AI, like if you get all three of those for $5,
Mm-hmm.
like that's like, so in the
Yeah.
previous campaign it was
Fun.
$5 to get the audio book and or the audio
Mm-hmm.
commentary, or my idea is like, I'm basically giving you, if you buy on Kickstarter, like the retail variant for free, and
Mm-hmm.
you're getting the commentary and the basically the audio book for free, and you're buying the audio commentary or whatever other thing so like you're only spending for one of those three things where you usually would have to spend on all three of those three things. And that's how I've been able to say, all right, I'm comfortable bringing this back in just like, it's going to have some new formatting inside, and like it's going
Mm-hmm.
to have new covers, but it's basically the exact same inside,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to have, because Kickstarter is what I believe it was for experimentation, and what it
Right.
is at its core is for like experimentation, both with things that you know will work and both for things that you're not sure will work. And I have no idea. I don't think anyone
Right.
has any idea if like AI audio books will work, but I figure like it's a few grand to like make this test and to have
Mm-hmm.
somebody else go through and like, I'm willing to spend that money and then come back with the audio, with the Godsverse Chronicles, and say, okay, for $25 you're going to get the print book, the audio commentary, the audio book, and the retailer variant, which is more than I've ever given anyone for the Godsverse before. So I'm
Right.
hoping people are like, okay, like I'll try the AI audiobooks. And I may even do a deal where like you get all 12 for $30 or something like that, because we've been
Yeah.
talking about doing like a bundle or something. But um yeah, I the long and the short of it is like, tentatively, because, and only specifically because people, to go back to your point, have been telling me
Right.
they hope I'm going to go back. People who said that they didn't get a chance to buy it before, or they didn't get a chance, or like, the money situation was tight before, like for some reason they didn't get a chance to do it before, like they wanted a chance to do it. And I figure like this is the best option that I've found. And really, what I have found, even more so in sales, is like the hook is the most important part. Like
Mm-hmm.
why you're coming back, like why you're doing it. Like if you can have a reason, people will buy that reason. People,
Mm-hmm.
like, some people want any reason to say no, but there's a lot of people who want any reason to say
Say
yes. Yes,
yes.
this is new
Yeah. I
covers.
agree.
Yes, it's a new thing. Yes, I can spend money. Yes, I want to do this. Like, so if you can make the hook doubling the size of the books, doing something, again, I didn't think the hook was strong enough for like just getting the retail covers, even though they're beautiful. But I think
Mm-hmm.
like AI assisted audiobooks, and like and the retailers,
Mm-hmm.
heck, I think people are going to just be like, I gotta see what this audiobook is
Right.
like, just even if I think I'm going to hate it, like I might
Mm-hmm.
try
I'm
it.
just curious.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because like I just don't think people are like, most 99% of people like are not doing this, because 90% of people are in KU, and you have to have a book on Kim
On
and
Google
on Google
Play. Yeah.
Play in order to even do it. So there's only like a 10% market who would even try it. And
Mm-hmm.
of those people, the vast majority are doing nonfiction, not fiction. And the vast majority of those are not doing like, and the vast majority of the people who are doing fiction already have audiobooks that are
Yeah.
like not AI assisted. And so I don't know. It's something that like I thought was true and is true, is like, you need a hook that matters to people before they will buy it. But if you can give them a decent hook, like people really want to support, like people in your network, like they really want to. We've seen this so many times, right? Like people
Mm-hmm.
that like do a special edition that doesn't really have too much new stuff, but it's hardcover for the first time or something, and like they're raising 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, $12,000 for it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think like this kind of brings me to something that I thought it was this and it's not, or it's actually this. It's really that you want to. I really thought it was like you could only do new things, but like what you're describing is like you have something for your fans, and then you have something for your new readers as well. So like I'm not really a new reader of the God's Verse, but like or like a new reader of yours. But like I would, I would come for the paperbacks in like the new or hardcovers in like the new format. Like that's why I would be there. So you're developing those new readers, and you're also scooping up like some support from previous fans, even if they already bought like everything. So like a couple people will rebuy the whole series in the new covers, like, but it's not going to be the majority of your campaign. You also have to give people something new that will bring people to it. So like one thing I thought is, it's one audience. It's probably just my fans, and it's not really true. You really want to have three audiences in every campaign, basically, like your fans who always support your stuff, kind of like your casual, like you're kind of like mid-range people who like they've read the books in ebook. Like how do you get them to buy a paperback or something? And then like the strangers, like you want to appeal to new people, because there are new people who are coming into the campaign at really any time, and people landing on that page. So that was a big thing to me. Once I got that, I started spotting it everywhere, where I was like, if you do not have these three different, like if you cannot convince these three different groups to back your campaign, then your campaign is just gonna be drastically less. And so we've seen that like quite a bit actually, with other people, and even to some extent in our own campaigns, which I'm excited to talk about the current campaign, because man, there were a lot of things that surprised me about this campaign.
Yeah. All right. I have one more thing to say about the
Yep.
other one, because I really want to hear that too. Is I don't think the next campaign is going to be as big as the previous campaigns. Like I think it's going to be significantly less. So I'll run it for significantly less amount of time. But the big thing that I thought when I first started Kickstarter is like once you've spent a month doing it, everyone who's going to buy on Kickstarter is going to buy, and like that is just not true. Every time I've ever had a campaign, people have said, "Oh, I can't buy now," or "I can't buy what I want now," or "I'm going to come in at $1 and then I'll buy something later," or
Mm-hmm.
they bought like one book and they're like, "Oh, I really wanted to buy like all 5 books now that I've read the one book." I've had a bunch of those people in all of my campaigns. So, and a bunch of people that said after the campaign, "I didn't even know you were running a campaign." So, like, all of
Which
those people are also on a campaign. So if you relaunch a campaign, like you might get those people who couldn't bought
sure.
only for one book, or bought like, or any of the other reasons that they just didn't see
Mm-hmm.
the campaign doing it again. Now, but I have to stress that you have to have something new. Like we've been talking
Right.
about, you can't just have, even I don't think recovering it is really enough. Like you've got to have something in there that is new. And Kickstarter we've had people get rejected from their
Mm-hmm.
campaigns because they didn't properly say what was new.
Right.
Like Kickstarter is very much like something unique has to be done to these books. And yes, recovering it is technically new and reformatting it is new, but like the AI assisted audiobooks is
Oh, that's new.
definitely a new
Yeah.
thing. Like that's for
We're
sure new.
launching like a new product.
Yes, and there are plenty of people on Kickstarter just like, I've never seen AI assisted audiobooks before. Like, I'm gonna buy. I gotta see what that is, and I'll bet that there's a bunch of people in the Kickstarter and in the author community that will just come. Doesn't even matter that like what the books are. It's just like, oh, it's this new thing. I'm gonna go and try it just because it's like new, and I might hate it, but like anyway. So I really thought like after a month, everyone who saw it, who was going to buy, is going to buy. And like, whoa, that is not true. You go back to our previous campaign, not this one that you're running now, but the one before it, like it became our best selling book, like in
Yeah.
that series for a while, like the
Well,
Kickstarter book.
yeah. I mean, it still basically is, because it was a solo book, and this new campaign, it's not even double what that was. So
No, I mean like, but on Amazon and everywhere we
oh
launched
yeah,
it,
yeah,
like it
yeah.
was the
On
most
Amazon,
popular
it's the
book
most
for like a
popular
few
book
months.
right
And
now.
it's
It still
just
is.
yeah, and it's like, well, like that clearly can't be true, because like the clearly can't be true that like all the people that buy are going to buy, because like, where are all these freaking people that are buying the Kickstarter book still on Amazon? So yeah, like, but enough about that. I want to hear about your new campaigns and the things that you believed and that were smashed
Oh,
this time.
yeah. I was thinking actually about what you were saying, and just thinking about like how backer kit was so important, because to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, I've seen some people who they don't use a fulfillment service where you can actually get more money after the fact, because like you said, Kickstarter does have this actual culture from the super backers, where if they like a campaign, they'll just buy a dollar so that they can get access to like a backer kit store later, and then they might buy like a ton of stuff whenever they actually have the money. So and there was actually a woman in our accelerator group who said that that was one of her strategies. Like often she will back at a much lower tier, or at a $1 tier, and then she will wait for the store to come out, and then she will you usually have the opportunity to upgrade to like whatever you want, including reward tiers, as far as I know. So you can upgrade to reward tiers, you can upgrade to like other add-ons that maybe didn't get added to the campaign during the campaign, which I know like this current campaign, like there's stuff that has not been added, but like I'll definitely add it in backer kit. So I don't know. I think that was kind of crazy to me when we, especially the last campaign, when we ended at 21,500, and then we ended up making like another 3,000. Like we actually ended like close to 25,000. That was like, wow. Like I couldn't believe that there were people who like the next day were like, I didn't get it. Like, can I get in on this still? And I'm like, you've literally had like 6 weeks to back this, and you're coming in like a couple hours late. Like, how is that possible? But there were a lot of people who had that. So
Yeah, a
uh,
lot of way more people than even I
the,
thought was going to be the
yeah,
issue.
like I mean, and I don't think it's like unusual. I really don't. I don't think it's that unusual. And I do think that, we've just seen some people who just use like the Kickstarter survey and stuff, and I think it's really a mistake. I think you're missing out on a lot of extra revenue, because I think ours was like, another 15%. Like 15% of the campaign we made after the campaign.
Yeah, so we
That
paid 2%, which was about
yeah,
$300,
yeah,
four hundred
or five,
dollars,
yeah, five, yeah,
yeah,
450 or something like that. Yeah,
and like made $3,000, and that doesn't
yeah,
even include that like it makes BackerKit just makes and
your
pledge
life
whatever to
easier.
one. It
Yeah.
makes the life easier when you're actually fulfilling the books as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes things easier to manage and to
Yeah.
do. So um yeah, I'm totally with you. I've never run a campaign without BackerKit. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm so ingrained, and like I know it's like kind of like backwards in some ways, and like it's not super intuitive the first time
Yeah.
you use it. And the real value comes, I mean, with Kickstarter, like the real value comes when you've used it like a couple of times. And
Mm-hmm.
with
I agree.
BackerKit, I think the same thing happens
Mm-hmm.
once you've got a little bit more of a padding. But like at this point, like if you go to my personal website and you go to my web store, it redirects to my last BackerKit campaign. Like that's all that it does. So and then BackerKit will alert me if someone buys from that campaign. And it's not great. Like, trust me, I would say my own store is terrible right now if we were
Mm-hmm.
doing analysis of it. But like, it's very effective because I make like 1,400. I think the most I've made this year is 1,400 on a book, but like usually I make $500 to
Mm-hmm.
$800, like of people buying more. That is one thing that I will say that I found in this campaign is this is the this Cthulhu campaign. I made way less on BackerKit on that campaign, but I've made more overall on all of the BackerKit things. So what I think happened is when I'm running one campaign, everyone is piling on that one campaign. But as I'm running multiple campaigns, people have like gotten what they wanted previously.
Right.
So it's just even though there was like the same amount of backers roughly as the last time I did a Cthulhu book, we made about half of what we did And again, I think it's just because people upgraded in other campaigns that they wouldn't have
Yeah,
ever bought on their web store or something like that. Because
right.
I definitely don't expect to make the amount of money I do on smaller campaigns. So like I kind of like make less on that big campaign and more on the smaller campaign. So you might see that, but God, I mean, still, even on that that big campaign, I paid like $800 and made $1,400. So I almost
Right.
doubled my money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also like the biggest thing to me is like I'm already doing fulfillment, and if you can just automatically get into that fulfillment after the fact and it's like sends me money, like that's great. If it's like you want to send me money later when like I've moved on, or like I don't know where that box of books is any, like that's like actually a real huge energetic tax. So I just think, I just think it just makes so much sense to use something like BackerKit. It doesn't have to be BackerKit, but to use a fulfillment service where it can really track all your orders. And like, even as a first time user, I found so much value in it. It was just so easy to like print and ship, like, because we shipped out like 250 books or something crazy like that. Like, it was so easy to like print everything and like everything integrated. It was just like so nice.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Anything else?
Um, gosh, I mean, so many things. We've kind of talked through like the new, like the different types of campaigns you can do. Um, yeah, I'm thinking of this campaign. So, one thing, maybe with the nonfiction stuff, I really thought that like having, so I don't know if this is like more like the veteran version of this, but I thought that like you kind of keep like adding stuff to your campaign and it would multiply, like it would spin up bigger. But I do think that there's kind of a capacity to what people can handle, because just looking at, and we're doing a special episode on this, so we'll talk more about this. So looking at the current campaign, we have a lot fewer backers, even though it's a more popular topic. But I think like there are 6 books in this campaign, and that has been kind of exhausting for people and kind of confusing. And so that was like one thing where I was, I do think people just have limits to how much they're like willing and able to spend on something. I think they have limits to like how much information they are interested in at one time. And so like I look at our next campaign, which is going to be our direct sales book in March 2023. And just looking at that, I'm like, it's going to be a solo book. So I know it's going to look a lot more like our first campaign than like this campaign. But I also feel like we are going to be able to get more backers on it than this campaign had, because I just feel like, it's so focused and targeted, and it's also, a niche topic, but like, maybe a little bit buzzier, right? At least right now. But it just, I feel like people just can't hold the idea of like 6 books at once. So that was a big thing that I think kind of like we had like higher backer average pledge, but we do have like drastically fewer people, versus a single book with like a single focus. I think it's just so much easier to get more people, and we actually saw that with a couple of our friends who had launched during or before us or whatever. They had single books, and like their backer numbers were just shooting up like way, like just way faster than ours. So like we, one of the campaigns we have exceeded backer numbers, but that's only because that campaign was like, I don't know, like 20 days versus ours, which was 40 plus days. So yeah, so I think the dynamics of the campaign are really it's been interesting to run a couple different styles and see like, oh well, you did this, you pulled this lever and it worked to do this, but then you sacrificed this in order to get
Yeah, that's
that.
so true. There's so much on Kickstarter that people are willing to do a taste, but then when you do like a series, and we see this in the Godsverse Chronicles, like,
Hmm.
we've had about the same amount of people in every campaign, like right around 250, even though we've had a lot more. We had like 375 in the Dragon Scourge campaign.
Hmm.
Like, that was a complete discrete series. So there were 3 books, but it was like
Right.
a discrete, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. Um, but you make more money. And this is true, I think, when you're on retailers too. It's like
It is. Yeah.
far more people will try a standalone,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just no money in launching a standalone because it
Right.
still costs more than you make. Whereas once you find one person who loves the book or try the book, like half of those people will try 2, and then
Right.
80% of people, and then 90%, and you'll get people that are going to go all the way to the end and go to the distance, even if you've got 30 books, those whale readers. So you do, and I see this all of the time, depending on like far fewer sales from especially book 1 to book 2 that you launch,
Mm-hmm.
but like just vastly more money or vastly more stable money because the people that are in that are in it. Like they're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think on retailers you see that like some people really do build their careers on like trilogies and duologies, and they just like launch them out, launch them kind of like I mean it's not a standalone, but it is kind of like a standalone series, and then they move on to another world or like another whatever, another trope. And so I do see that a lot, versus where I think both of us are, where we want to be is like we're writing these like massive series that all interconnect, and like there's 12 books and like we're just kind of like those true fantasy writers that just can't like stop telling the one story that they've been telling, like which is great. And I think it really is like two different strategies, two different business models. And I definitely can see the benefits of both, where before I just thought like just if 3 books are great, well 6 books are better. But that's very much like a certain type of reader, which I happen to be. But like a lot of people are not. A lot of people are like, oh, there's 6 books, like peace out.
Yeah. A lot of people just want that one and done book, and
Yeah.
they're like, I have a lot of people that like when I go to a show now, and there's 3 books on my table, they're like, oh, when I was at 1, it was a lot easier to make that like
Mhm.
one sale. But like,
Right.
for people that love the series, they're gonna do all of that thing, and it's like it's always you always think you're gonna do better on the second campaign, and if you have a very small campaign, the second one probably will be bigger.
Hmm.
Like the
Right.
third will probably be bigger than that. Like you see that. And like it's not, and I've had people with even very big campaigns that have a bigger second and third and fourth series. But I think more likely what's going to happen is you're going to plateau after a time, especially if you're launching multiple books at one time. What tends to happen with people, let's take a Brian Polito who kind of launches in the same world constantly and makes like 300,000, is he'll launch like everything is its own discrete series. Like every time he launches, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, this arc is over. The next arc is like,
Right.
here's number 1 for the next arc. And then
Hmm.
like, so everything is in the world, but it's like a new entry point. And I don't know. Like he keeps doing very, very well, like hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars is raised on Kickstarter. But I do think that is kind of the middle ground of like, I
Hmm.
actually thought it was going to be much better for you as far as backer count, because you could come in and just be like,
Right.
I'm having a problem with Barnes and Noble. There's the Barnes and
Right.
Noble book.
Right.
Here you
Yeah.
go. That's what I thought was going to happen.
I did too. Yeah.
What ended up happening was people were like, I just want it all. Or like, I want
Yeah.
even more than all.
Right. I have people messaging me on this campaign who they're like, I want it all, but like that's like $400. So like, can you make it cheaper? And it's like, well, no, that is what it cost, like the print books or whatever. But yeah, people, there are lots of people who are saying, I want it all and I can't afford it, so I'll get nothing. Like it's kind of
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
they're kind of like, peace out. Like I'm not gonna. So I think that was like, it's definitely kind of been a blocker for the campaign as well. So, which
Yeah.
was interesting. So,
Yeah. It's because like the Gods vs. Chronicles works very similarly in that they're all standalone books that build on
right,
each other. So like you would be like, just buy book 1. They'd be like,
right,
no. It's that
yeah,
same thing that happens where it's like someone comes in at like $400 and then just cancels. I'm like
right,
you could have still had $1 and like
yeah,
gotten all of the
gotten some of
bonuses.
it,
Like
yeah, Yeah.
So like instead you could have gotten one book at $5. Like I know that the finances go wonky, but like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so like I do think there's this like all or no. If I can't get
Mm,
exactly what I want, then like I'm
uh,
just not going to get anything until I can get exactly what I want.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely think I've had, yeah, and it's only a percentage of people, but I definitely think that that has counted against this campaign, which is interesting. So first of all, we are very proud of this campaign, and especially if it does double, then that will really be like our most successful campaign. Like you're a collaborator on this campaign. I'm kind of the lead on our nonfiction campaigns, but like that would be your most successful campaign, right?
Yeah, I mean
So
it's creeping up there. It's
it's
very
getting there.
like
Yeah.
if it gets to 41, like it's going to be my most successful campaign ever. So
Yeah. So we're proud of it.
yeah, after
Yeah.
my most successful campaign ever a couple of months ago. So
Yeah,
like
like
yeah,
you
this has
just
been
had it. Just had the
yeah,
most successful and
which
your
goes
most
back to,
successful fiction novel campaign, which was
yeah,
just like the last two campaigns have been your most successful campaigns.
which goes back to one thing that I want to say before we get out of here because we are going over
Right.
time just like
Yeah.
we always do, which is the people that seem to be having the most success recently are people that are continuously launching almost like they're launching like 5, 10. Like there's like a 4 is good, but then like once you get to like 8 or 9 or 10 campaigns a year, like those are the people that are also like really killing it. And I was shocked when I saw like my friends that are like have multiple like have tried to Kickstarter and have gotten like we need 2 accounts because we want to run them balanced like
Mm,
every other month. Like we want to have people that are bound that and like to see those people that are doing like Microcosm has like a book every single month. Laurie Foster has like a book every
yeah.
month at Unlikely Hero Studios. Like, you know, these people are running multiple, and you'd think like at some point they'd be burned out, but they keep bringing new projects with new creators. Now, this is like a more publisher
Right.
strategy, not like a creator strategy, but like, you know, Monica and I though are both creators, and
Hmm.
like I think probably like at least 5 months out of this year we've been launching between the two of
Yeah.
us.
Oh yeah.
You know, because I did January, then February, and then March, and then Monica
May,
did May and June
June, July,
and July
August.
and August, and I'm about to
You're
launch
doing
one
September.
in August
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Tuesday that'll take me through the end
That's
of September.
that's insane.
So like
I'm gonna do the October one.
yeah, and so
So
we're
for the
gonna
witches.
yeah, there's gonna be one in October, and then I'm gonna launch one in November. So like there are ways to like do this,
Mhm.
especially if you have like a collaborator or a group of collaborators, or you're running in a bunch of different kinds of things. Like I write
Mhm.
nonfiction and I write fiction. I write
Right.
comics and I write novels. My friend Kat Kalamia, she and her business partner do like a different comic, or they'll do pins, or they'll do something else. So like there's always something, there's always some way that they're launching some product on
Mhm.
Kickstarter to test it out. And you know, they're doing 10 to 25 grand, and they're two creators. They're not doing other people's books, and but
Right.
they're able to do that because they have different series and different things. So if you're the kind of creator who goes fast and like does some different stuff, or wants to bring in like an art book, or wants to bring in pins, or wants to bring in comics. I have a lot of people in our accelerator are suddenly very into doing comics, I think, because they're seeing the kind of success they're having in
Right.
publishing, and the kind of success that they can even double that maybe in comics. So
Mhm.
they're doing all of these different things. And if you're someone who likes to dabble in all of that stuff, like board games, Lori right now had just her most craziest first 2 days ever. She did like 14 grand on a a 5e source book. And so like that kind of stuff, all of those things are possible to do if you're willing to launch it. Now, I'm not saying go from 0 to 60, but like, you know, I thought 5 was going to be too much. And what I
Mhm.
found was like, what's not too much? It's too much if you expect to raise $30,000 every time. But like if you have different audiences, or you're willing to build different audiences who like different things, like you could launch like a source book once a
Yeah.
year, pins once a year, a book 2 or 3 times a year, an art book once a year. Like all of these things are possible. Coloring books.
Mm-hmm.
One of our accelerator members just is killing
Yeah.
it with a
She's
coloring
doing
book
really well.
campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things are possible. You probably won't raise a huge, like 100 grand on any one of them, but you might. But you'll be able to keep coming back to the well and trying different things and building your. It does require a lot more building, which is
Right.
something we look forward to talking about specifically in a future episode coming up.
Yes. And I do want to say something else. I think last year, so I know next year you have a number of collaborations that it is like you're launching a Kickstarter almost every month when I looked at your schedule. But then, last year, I think you made like your Kickstarter totals were like just under 100K. So like you were making like a lot just from Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this year you're definitely going to be like possibly way over 100K is
I
like
mean,
kind of
with
what,
this
yeah.
campaign and my
And the
Cthulhu
Cthulhu
campaign,
campaign
I'm already over
over.
close to over my total. I'm definitely over my
Yeah,
total if you count all of the campaigns that I've done
right.
this year. And like, we're not even all the way through this
Yeah.
year. And then we also launched like an accelerator, which goes
Mm-hmm.
on top of that and all of those things. So yeah, I mean, this is easily my best launching year I've ever done. And it's also the most launches I've ever done, which just goes back to that old adage that like launch and keep launching and good things will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to share that because it's like you're still like I mean like growing and like growing a lot in like year to year with Kickstarter, even through doing more of these launches.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're, I've never gotten over $100,000 in a year, and I'm still
Yeah.
waiting for that $100,000 project. But I just had my friend, my friend Pat Shand just had his first $100,000 project, and like he launches 6 a year, and
Mm-hmm.
it took him 20 campaigns to have that first project, and he didn't have his first like big blow up like over 25 grand project until last
Wow.
December. His last December,
Wow.
he'd been doing well. Like, don't get me wrong, he'd been doing
Mm-hmm.
like 10 to 25,000 for everything. But then he like had a real big blow up project last December, and then now he did even $100,000 project, and like just 6 months later. So that growth can happen, and it only takes one project.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say this enough. Maybe this is the last belief that I had. I believed that when like you failed on Kickstarter or you didn't do well on Kickstarter, like you just were a failure. And even that project can relaunch better. But like I have
Which we've
seen
seen.
I've done. And so what I found is the real truth is that like it only takes one project to blow up. Like I've seen this now, not just on Kickstarter, but on Amazon. Like it
Mm-hmm.
only takes one. And once the one happens, like it all changes. And
Right.
then you can get even, and then that's probably going to be even, the next one's going to be even better than that. And then after that, like the one keeps growing. But like you honestly and truly only need one project to like and it can be the next one, it can be 5
Right.
from now. I don't ever know what the one's going to be from you, but like if you keep launching and keep putting stuff out there into the world and you keep growing and you keep getting better at like knowing your audience and knowing what they want and knowing the trends of what's going on and whatever platform you're launching on, like it will happen. And I know it will happen because I have just seen so many failures. It's like people who failed for a decade and they kept going and then like they hit it out of the park, and like now that first 10 years they don't even think about it. Like it's all just like their new things and they're just success after success after success after success.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm still waiting for my 100K project too. but
Maybe the
I'm
next one.
patient. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be. It's probably not. This is my fiction side. So but yeah, it's been really fun this year to do Kickstarter and to prioritize it. So yeah, so hopefully this was helpful to everyone listening, and we'll see you later.
So yeah, we'll see you later. And yes,
Bye.
also Kickstarter is very fun if you do it the right way.
Yes, I agree. All right, bye everyone.